Oh, hello, Star Wars fans. Hey, do you know there's 316 days until Christmas 2021? And boy, oh boy, did we get a lot of news last night. And of course, it's got the internet set afire today. So we're going to pick up our regular Thursday Star Wars chats with Imagic Maker from Reimagining Star Wars. And this is a regular on our channel. If you haven't subscribed or joined us, every Thursday, Imagic Maker and I, well, most Thursdays, we didn't make it last week, but most Thursdays, Imagic Maker and I come on and we collaborate to talk about Star Wars from different perspectives. And so today, we're going to talk a little bit about the Gina Carano situation. And hello, Gitter. Good to see you here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Gina Carano situation and talk about what's going on both in socially and culturally, and how that might affect the community, the Star Wars community as a whole. So, hello, Imagic Maker. I know you're on the road, so we're and only available for the first half hour of the show. So we'll get right into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the news is definitely not it's not something we can go into lightly. I mean, I'll try to be as light in this as possible. I think that we need to have calm heads as we go into these kind of topics, and knowing that I'm in the writing, I think this is not good for the writing. When you take a character out, unless they replace the character with another actress, then and I don't know how people accept that. It kind of messes things up. But it's not like it's the first time it's happened in Star Wars. So it has happened before.
Or other franchises. I mean, it's not that uncommon in the industry as a whole. And hello, Clone Wars fan. I don't know that I've seen you here before. Thank you for joining. Good to have you here. And Phil, good to see you again today. Thank you guys for coming in. So there's really the hot button side of it, which is about Gina Carano's actual activities, what led to her being fired, and whether you agree or disagree with that. And that's what really, we're in a cultural war where folks are, Brian Stone, hello, hello, where people are really digging in, their sides drawn, and ammunition is being fired at one another. And this is certainly another round put into that war. And right. So
Star Wars once again has found itself on the front lines.
Yeah. He was Mandalore the Reclaimer. Okay, I know who you are. Thanks for being here. So there's and Phil, you're right on. There was a big thing about we love Gina Carano or fire Gina Carano. I stand with Gina Carano, blah, 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 right? And so sides were drawn, and now there's the cancel Disney Plus thing going on as it goes into that. Dale, hello. But, this really is two pieces to this. One is what Gina Carano was trying to do and the consequences of that. And then the other is really, is there consistency within Lucasfilm, Disney, in the way that they treat their employees, and should there be consistency? Those are some big topics. So I watched a video this morning, and by the Lonely Banter, LB, and LB really had a good point that illustrated this relatively well in how these political lines are drawn. So Colin Kaepernick comes out, and he has a social message that he's trying to get.
Use his position to platform.
Right. So he's trying to make a statement, and the way that he does that is dealt with, and then how the NFL dealt with it, how those teams dealt with it, on and on. We're all aware of, and political lines were drawn over should he have a job in the NFL or not. And here we have Gina Carano, perhaps on the other side of the political spectrum, in a similar, not exactly the same, but in a similar kind of fashion, expressing a platform that I think is important. Just as I think Black Lives Matter is an important issue, equality and those kind of things are important issues, but how they're expressed becomes the things that divide us, right?
Sure.
And there can be discussions about how do you express political or social issues in a way that is not divisive. And is that even possible?
I mean, I don't know if it is possible in this day and age.
I don't think it is either, because there's hypersensitivity, right? That's how it feels to me. There's hypersensitivity. The slightest little thing can lead to a big battle. It's gotten really, really bad. And one of the things that got Gina in trouble early on was this beep bop boop thing, right? So the LGBTQ plus trans community was putting in their identity, right? So him, her, whatever, right? And she kind of just had fun with it by putting the beep bop boop, which came across then as severely off-putting to those folks, right? It became something that they felt attacked, and that's the climate we live in, right?
Right.
It's really tough when you try to say something in jest, or just kind of say, I can express myself how I want to, but then that comes across as social commentary that is divisive, and all of a sudden you got fired Gina Carano, right? Hello, Will Morgan. Oh, good to see you here. Thank you. So that's sort of one of the things that started it, the beep bop boop thing, right? And then
I think it started a little bit earlier than that, though.
Yeah, I think so too. But that's sort of when it became a hot button, I think.
Right.
I
think the main thing that started them against calling out for her head and was when she came out against trans women, men to women, in female sports, and that's what started the whole process. So like, there was a trans man or trans woman, I guess. I don't know. I hate to be ignorant of this. I'm not exactly how to say that. I guess it's trans woman, right? And so I'm making myself sound ignorant.
Correct. No, I got you.
But when had really soundly beat the previous champion of the in MMA, and I mean beat the snot out of her. I mean, like broke her face, beat her, and she said that should not happen. And that was the same time that Joe Rogan was speaking out against it, and a bunch of others. And that's when she first entered the spotlight in this light.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't follow that part, but so that makes more sense about why the beep bop boop thing came across the way it did. But the question then is, let me see how to address this. And again, Magic Maker and I discussed this briefly before coming on. We want to be somewhat sensitive. We don't want to, fan the flames of anything. We're kind of going out there with a little bit of risk, even talking about this the way that we are. So please forgive us if we kind of overstep, but we're just trying to bring up a point of discussion. And that's sort of where we were before, right? Like, if the slightest thing is going to fan the flames, and people already have the political battle lines drawn, the cultural battle lines drawn, it becomes difficult to have an honest and open discussion in good faith, right? Yeah. So Gina uses some illustrations from Nazi Germany. One of the ones that got her in big trouble was the guy that refused to give the Nazi salute. Yep. And boy, that fanned the flames again, because anytime somebody of her political stance brings up Nazism, then it becomes, there's a term for it, for using Nazi illustrations out of context. But Anyhow, that kind of got things aggravated. And from there on, with the beep bop boop, and then with that, and she became a
that was why she was in. They were attacking her, and she's not going along with that Hollywood version of the cultural view. All right, and that's why she puts that picture out. And so she's, again, in both cases, what's the same as that one and the same with this one today, she's calling them the Nazis, and that is what makes her offensive.
Right. So I'm going to bring this up just because I think I haven't heard it discussed yet, but I think it's going to be there. So back in the day, there was McCarthy hearings, right? There's McCarthyism that became widely known because of people in Hollywood who were associated with, or even could be tangentially related to, anybody that expressed sympathy for socialism became ostracized. They lost their jobs. They became, a lot of bad things happened, right?
Right.
And what differentiates this from that is McCarthy was a member of the U.S. Senate, and we had McCarthy hearings. And so it became a government issue about freedom of speech, freedom of association. And people were losing their jobs because they were being outed as socialists, right?
Right.
So the wheels have kind of turned on that, and the table has turned, and now it's more of the socialist agenda that is in front, and those who are of the other political persuasion are being put out of jobs, right?
Correct.
But it differs from McCarthyism because it's not the government doing this, it's peer pressure, right? It's the society as a whole. It's people accepting or not accepting political perspectives. And
I think people would argue that there's some aspects in the in the politics that are going on too that mirror as well. So yeah, I think it's a very good. I mean, there's not a direct senator called McCarthy who's trying to make political hay by himself, but there's definitely many politicians that are fighting this war on that side too. And so I think that the climate, I would probably venture to say the climate may be worse than it was then because you didn't have all the social media you had then to make it so in your face.
Right. And I mean, companies, so there's an aspect of this, like the NFL making a decision with Kaepernick or those teams. Each of those are privately held companies. Same with Disney, Twitter, Facebook, right? All those are publicly held properties. And as public properties, they can make hiring, firing decisions at will. And that's fine. So when you express yourself, whether it was during the anti-socialist movement that Hollywood folks lost their jobs, or today where it's maybe folks on the right or conservatives who are losing their jobs, we see, you mentioned this before, we kind of see a repeat of history, right?
Yep.
And all that's changed is who's losing their jobs, but the environment is very much the same. Right. Does it make one right? Is it okay? But
yeah, I mean, my view of this is that so we have a couple things. There is a difference between Twitter and what Twitter does, and then what Lucasfilm does or the NFL team does. I mean, so you have the right to speak your opinion. You do not have the right to be devoid of the consequences. So Gina Carano has spoken. She had a right to put it out there. Lucasfilm, whatever bent or political thing, they have the right to fire her. I'm not denying that. That's not a that's not the discussion.
right.
I would argue if Twitter banned her, I would argue that is not proper, that they actually don't have the right to do that, even though people would say that they do because they're a private company. And the reason I would say they don't is because they have some protections, all right, that are given to them, special protections that are given to Twitter and things like YouTube, under kind of Section 230 under the Communication Decency Act, and so that actually that's they have special privileges over other publishers and everything. So I would and the intent in that whole thing, if you read the preamble of that whole thing, is to foster political discourse, part of that, and to protect children from indecent material, and that's when they refer to objectionable, actually it is actually self-referenced in that. But that neither to say. So what I'm saying is that Twitter, YouTube, and those are actually separate entities, are under a separate division in what they can control technically, even though it's never been properly defended in court. And so but that said, Lucasfilm, the NFL can hire, fire, blackball anybody they want based off of who. I mean, if you think about who is their audience in for the NFL, I would argue that the NFL's primary audience is the working class. I would say the working class, not all, but the majority of them probably voted for Trump. And so when they saw this, they considered that they're on that side. So that's why you've seen numbers go down. That's why they reacted the way they did. If they were on that side of the political, the majority of their audience was on that side of the political spectrum. And so that's why they effectively backballed Colin Kaepernick. And I think he has the right to say it, whether I agree with it or not. I mean, what Noam Chomsky said, says if you only agree with the speech that, if you only allow the speech you agree with, then you're not for free speech. And
Yep.
And so I think that's the important factor. Now that said, there is a double standard within Lucasfilm, and that double standard is if they were accusing people on the side that Gina Carano is on as being Nazis, and then that would be perfectly okay. But if she does it back the other way, then that is sanctionable. That's fireable. So it's a double standard.
Yeah. My feeling on this, I've posted in a couple of Discord forums, both in Den of Nerds and on our own Discord group that we have in the covert that we have for my channel and in Star Wars. I think that probably back in the fall, Gina got in trouble from Lucasfilm for her social media activity. And she was probably put on some sort of notice, written notice, or perhaps even suspended. And then, there's Mark. He's the guy that started our Discord channel. But I think she got in trouble back in the fall, and that escalated things. So she came out feeling like she was being silenced, that her point of view and those being of similar political persuasion were being kind of suppressed. She amped it up, and it became a war of perception. And it kind of culminated in yesterday's events, where she tried to express that being of a certain political persuasion or having political ideology is being treated as a unacceptable type of person. And so she tried to use the Nazi example of being Jewish was a unacceptable type of person, so that they built this hatred for a class of people, a race of people, or a type of people that other people felt like they could freely attack,
persecute. That's right, attack even the children. They said,
and so she's trying to make that point, and I don't think she's wrong in expressing that attitude. It's just that using the Nazi symbolism was something that put her, if she's already on notice, if she's already kind of in the hot water, she's just turned the temperature up, right? And so at some point,
well, I think she fully knew she was going to be fired, and she was more than willing to express her opinion.
Well, and that's why I go to back. I think that's what I support. Like back in the fall, it seemed like maybe this had already happened as far as her being put on notice or perhaps suspended.
Right.
And then she felt like, well, I've got nothing to lose here, and just went full in.
Right.
And
I don't think what she said this time was any different than her picture that she put up with the one guy not putting the hand up.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's the same message.
Yeah, and Will's correct. Political correctness is America's newest form of intolerance. That's exactly right. And it's becoming very difficult because it is being disguised as a tolerant movement, right? You're intolerant, so we're going to be intolerant of you. No, which is inconsistent within itself. But and Mike is right as well. When you sign a contract, you agree to follow the terms of that contract. What we don't know is what Gina's contract said.
Right. I'm not saying that Lucasfilm doesn't have the right to fire. That's not what I'm saying. I like I said, you have the right to free speech. You don't have the right to be free of consequences of that free speech. And private entities can enact their consequences against you. I'm not saying that that's not true. I just the question is in this whole thing is, is Lucasfilm showing a bias? And I think the answer is yes.
Well, sure.
They are showing a bias. And does that continue to ostracize a great portion of their fandom? And I think the answer to that is also yes.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's why I bring up the McCarthyism, because I see a parallel there. And we had mentioned right before the stream about learning from history and how people don't.
Yeah.
What was
Hegel says that the one thing we learn from history is that people don't learn from it.
Right. And that's absolutely true. So while there are certainly differences between the McCarthyism hearings and the anti-communist socialist propaganda and attitude in America back when those hearings were happening, and the consequences for actors and actresses who were affiliated in one way or another with those movements lost their jobs. And there was an outrage that came up after the fact, like during the time, there was a huge, I think, social agreement with what was going on. We'd just come out of World War II. The Cold War was at its height, maybe not quite at the peak, but it was amped up.
Pretty darn close.
Yeah, pretty darn close. And so those things were happening. So as a society, there was an intolerance, if you will, for people who were sympathetic to socialism, communism.
Right.
And that's why I say the tables kind of turned. Now there is, at least in Hollywood, and I put that term loosely. I know it's not limited to that. In the movie and TV industry, let's put it that way. And maybe even broader than that. It might be in entertainment.
Yeah, I think entertainment leans very, very left. If you want to say left versus right. So
right. So there's much more acceptance of socialist kind of ideology in that industry. So those who are opposed to that ideology are now being suppressed, losing their jobs, or they have to keep quiet, right? And you have to kind of keep it in the closet, keep it under wraps. Same as in the McCarthy era, right? In that industry where those folks who had different political persuasions had to keep it under wraps in the closet and hidden. The same thing I think is happening now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's been hard for people with a conservative bent, if they were out and not famous, to find work. And I think now, even if they're famous, it doesn't matter. They feel in the other side, of that spectrum, feels emboldened to go ahead and exact what they think is right against the right-leaning people, actors or writers or musicians.
Yeah. Dale, we're missing XR's opinion. Where is XR? He's MIA.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah. And Gray, hello there. So Is there a double standard? Is there inconsistency? Yes, I think so. And I think there's a strong bias in that industry that leans one way. And if you are of a different ideology, there's some suppression going on. There's just a question of it, right?
I mean, I think I think there is that, and I've seen this culturally being compared to a soft totalitarianism.
Yeah.
And so you basically have all the cultural, icons, cultural, establishments. I'm trying to think of institutions, which is Hollywood, entertainment, universities, and now, the side of, the conservative side would say even the government is now all bent toward a more socialist, direction, more leftist bent, at least more left bent. How about that? And I don't want to overstep my statement, but a more left. I don't want to speak in hyperbole. I mean, so I want to speak in, in as calm as term as possible, but a more left liberal bent, and that's fully across every cultural institution now, and so the right definitely feels embattled, and those that are more left seem to be in control of those institutions, meaning that people who would maybe mean more toward the center, feel obliged to stay more silent, or they might agree with certain things, but they feel. I mean, there's definitely a sense of fear that is taking over our country, because you can't speak your mind with a huge consequence.
Yeah, that's true. That's
and
true.
I think a spirit of fear in a country that has normally been fairly optimistic that things would always be better is. I mean, I think COVID may have something to do with it. I don't know, but I mean, I feel like this has been coming on for like the last decade, and I think that I mean, it's just, but now it's palpable. Like you feel like you can scrape it off with a knife off the window.
Oh, true. I know we're running short on time. You're running out of time here, but so I want to kind of touch base on a couple of other things real quickly. But I do want to just acknowledge you're pretty close, and that's where kind of I want to. And Mike's bringing up a question: what this has to do with Star Wars at all? Right? Keep your politics out of my Star Wars. Right. And it is sad. In the problem that we have, Mike, and I think this is it, that there is this hypersensitivity. I mentioned that word before in our cultural state, where content in our arts is being highly scrutinized, and where there were political messages before in Star Trek, Star Wars, you name it. It's always been some political messaging going on in art, always. Going all the way. There's a great story back in the Vatican. If you, the Sistine Chapel, there's a picture of some political people going into hell. And so their faces on those paintings, they have no relevance to us today. But in the day when they unveiled that and you saw these politicians being cast into hell, it had a powerful message. and got them in a lot of trouble. But so what we see today is no different from that, except the hypersensitivity and the battle lines that are being drawn is used to weaponize.
Right.
And that's so where it comes into Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever the fandom is that you're in, Harry Potter, you name it, is that these things are hyper kind of scrutinized due to the hypersensitivity. And now the impact it's had to Star Wars is that a character that folks really enjoy is being removed. And so that's the next question. Right. And so I want to get your take on this just real quick before you have to go. What do you think the future of Cara Dune will be within the Star Wars universe?
It depends on how far along they are. So I don't think they filmed 3. I don't know. I really don't know the premise behind Rangers of the New Republic. But if she was supposed to lead up Rangers of the New Republic, then what I suspect is that we'll have a recasting, and then they'll push the Rangers of the New Republic back until after we get a new showing with her. And I would suspect they'd probably bring in somebody like Ronda Rousey, so that they would just dye her hair so she has the same color hair.
That could be the case. I think we also have a possibility, at least within The Mandalorian, where it left off last season. They just don't go back to Navarro for some time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy. Just stay away from Navarro. And
I think they'll definitely do that. But I mean, that creates. So the question is, if they're getting ready to shoot here in a month or two, right? And so with season 3. I just don't see them going back and rewriting all these things. So what I suspect they're going to do is just recast the person. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Ronda Rousey come in, and to fill that. She's still a MMA fighter. She's attractive. She meets all the criteria. She's already an actress. She could fill the role. You just dye her hair and let her fill the role. I think that's the direction. I personally think that's the direction they'll take.
All right, I don't disagree. I think they can do, especially with Rangers of the New Republic. It's easy to just change names and do a little bit of rewriting so that it's a different character entirely. So It's not Cara Dune. It's Sarah, somebody else, right?
It's Mara Crone.
Right, exactly.
But I don't think we're going to see Rangers of the New Republic until after season 3, anyway, as far as I can tell. So by having not filmed already, and this may be why they pushed it back, because they already kind of preparing for her to not be in in season 3. So they might have already not written. Maybe she's already not in it, and she knows. And so
right. Well,
like, they've already gotten rid of me anyway.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned what I did about back in the fall. I think she started escalating when she felt like she was being silent. Yeah. And so she just, there's nothing to lose. I've already been cut out, and I'm just going to amp this war up, right?
Right. Well, I still have a platform.
Yeah, exactly. And while she may have been on notice or kind of suspended, she hadn't lost her job until yesterday, right? So she may have still been trying to work it out. But I think that they've had some time to deal with this, and that it might be fairly easy to just stay away from Navarro, pursue the whole quest for reclaiming Mandalore, and focus more on that with Bo-Katan and that mission, and just stay away. And when you come back in a couple of seasons to Navarro, and there's another actress there who has some, like you mentioned, right, Ronda Rousey or somebody like that, who fills that role, and we move on.
Right. Yeah, I do think they'll probably introduce that. If they introduce anybody to play Cara Dune, it'll be done. It'll have to be done before Rangers of the New Republic, assuming she's showing up in Rangers of the New Republic, so that we have that transition. So we see the person, he interacts with the person as Cara. We have that transition, and that's it. That's what I see happening in Star Wars. And so if she's going to do, I don't think she's. I saw that she's not significant enough to recast. I think she's not significant enough to not recast, meaning that they don't care.
Right.
And so they don't have an issue. Just like with Bail Organa in the prequels, they recast that person to be Jimmy Smith, right? That wasn't originally who was playing Bail.
Yeah.
So
I
think that's.
And they do it in other
franchises. I gotta go.
I know you do.
So,
I know. Thank you so much for being here. We'll get caught up in the comments and keep the conversation going. If you guys haven't already, Imagic Maker, his YouTube channel is linked here with Reimagining Star Wars, as well as his Discord group. If you are interested in fan fiction writing and stories within the Star Wars universe, please check out his Discord channel. It's in the description here. You can link there and find them. And every Sunday, they've been having fan fiction readings. So if that's something that is of interest to you, Magic Maker is all about that. So
Sunday at 8 Central.
Yep.
8 p.m. Central.
8 p.m. Central. Thank you, sir, and have a great day.
right, thank you. May the force be with you. Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you so much. Oh, thanks. Okay, so let's just get back into some of these comments, and I just want to make sure that we yeah, she could be replaced by any female character. And I've been already seeing lots of fan casting saying this person or that person that do have some physical resemblances. And I think they've got a lot of choice to replace her. And if they can let time pass, that's my point is if they go a season or two with without going back to Navarro, and you haven't seen Cara Dune in, say, 2 seasons, and we come back to Navarro and there's another actress there, it won't be that big of a shock. Then, going from one episode to the next, if you're just watching through, it won't be that big a deal. And you see it all the time on TV shows, especially, but also in movies where a character gets recast. And we just saw it in WandaVision. Oh, Wanda just recast her brother. So there you go. It can happen. I personally think a new character will come in and take over a part. Yeah, I think that's easy to do in Rangers of the New Republic, Mike, and that's I agree with you. Rangers of the New Republic, all you have to do is change the character name, introduce her at the beginning. Boom, you're done. Move on. Right. Exactly. We agree. Great. I feel she was lucky to get the job, make careers turn people into superstars, and thought her opinion meant more. Yeah. When you're put in a public platform like that and you have a publicly unpopular opinion, you're free to that opinion. You're absolutely free to have it and express it any way that you want. But you also have to realize that there are some consequences that can happen in a publicly held company. And if you aren't willing to abide by contractual terms or you do things that the company finds distasteful in some way or another, you have to accept that might happen, right? You might not be retained. So, yeah, gone. Rangers wasn't officially announced as a Cara Dune show. That's exactly right, Adam. You're 100% correct. They don't have to make any statements about it. Just put in another character, move on like nothing ever happened. You're fine. And if they already had scripts written with Cara Dune and thought it was a spinoff from The Mandalorian and that the character has already been introduced, they just have to kind of backfill that enough so that we get introduced to who the character is, what their role is, and you don't really have to, miss a beat as far as the show itself goes. Maybe, you take maybe you miss one beat because you have to do this revisiting, but you can just move on, right? More Bill Burr, perhaps. So you see the actress who played Ida Versa tweeted her character may well be coming into live action. Yeah. Let's see if I can. You guys are getting ahead of me. Perfect conductor with a backstory to correct timeline. Yeah, I like that. They don't need Cara to retake Mandalore, right? And if they just focus on the Bo-Katan side of it and the Mandalorian side of it, the Darksaber, where we're headed with that, you don't have to go back to Navarro, and it becomes a moot issue. And you could revisit Navarro in some future season. It's not a problem at all. Hello, Matt. Oh, welcome. Check Cara Dune book out of library. Well, here's another thing, aggressively relaxing. And you bring up another point. Cara Dune is not going to go away. You're going to see her in cons. People are going to be dressing up as Cara Dune forever. The character is not going anywhere. And from that perspective, the cultural war that's going on may only enhance where more of those kind of cosplay representations of the character. It's become a cultural battle, and this is something that is going to affect Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Certainly, there is going to be monetization around this for a very long time to come. We've already seen the cancel Disney Plus kind of thing, hashtag start moving, and folks like Drug 3PO and others who have been really, really close to Cara Dune and Gina Carano are going to make this a topic of conversation. It's part of their community. So understood. I don't see any reason why they'll need to recast. Well, I think at some point they're going to have to address what happened to Cara Dune, unless you just never go back and you cut Grief Karga out, and you cut that whole storyline out going forward. You just never come back. But eventually you come back and something's got to be addressed about what happened to Cara Dune. So I do think they'll need to recast the role. That's just my opinion. Pedro Pascal. So this is that inconsistency that people are bringing up. So Super Saiyan, hello, welcome. There is some inconsistency across the board as far as these companies are acting. That's what we're talking about, but like the McCarthyism and Hollywood types losing their jobs back in the day, and now Hollywood types are losing their jobs now due to the same sort of social environment that we have. And Trinity's right. I mean, roughly half of Americans are conservatives, Republicans. The problem is that, Disney has gotten a lot of flack from the left from cozying up too much to conservative values, traditional American values, if you will, and not being progressive enough. And that's displayed in how they did with Mulan and lots of other things, that they're trying to walk that balance in between. And where that comes in is in that industry. I think the industry as a whole leans further left, and that Disney was trying to walk more of a moderate road in between. And it just came to a point where they couldn't stand up to the political pressure. And certainly Gina wasn't helping the discussion. They could continue the character in comics animation. I don't know if they will. I think they just need to step away from her for a little time. Cara's important to the Mandalorian franchise. Yeah, I think they will recast her eventually. Yeah, I'll bet you Ryan is angry. Not only Ryan, but Drunk 3PO especially, right? Very, very angry. So we'll see what happens in that community for sure. Expect this to be a leading topic for some time. When they've been making the cultural divide part of their content and their monetization, in really pushing this cultural war that's going on and representing one side of that especially strong, expect this to be more fodder for that discussion. Absolutely. Wasn't Cara Dune wasn't written good in the so Gray's voice to text is messing with her again. I can tell, because we've got some fun some fun interpretation. Gun jam scene was crazy. The gun jam. Oh, I got you. The gun, when I disagree with you a little bit, Gray. When the gun jammed, I thought it was good. And the way she pounded on the ground and got it to fire back up, I liked it. But to each their own. And this is supposed to be second season and put WND. But I think that gun jam scene was fine. But Mrs. Claus even mentioned, and this is an unpopular opinion, I don't think Gina was that great of an actress. She's physical. She's able to carry out the physicality of the role, and for Cara Dune to be, physically strong, she fit that well, really, really well. Some of the things that she did in that series were kind of built for her to do, and she did those extremely well. But her acting as a whole felt flat, and it didn't add a lot to the character. And it's observable from people that are not engaged or invested in this political discourse at all. Let me get back up here. Hey, I'm Republican, and I want her speaking. I would want her to speak for me. Why do we have morons standing up? Oh, Mike, it wouldn't is the way that comes across. Look, I've expressed I'm a Republican as well. I'm a conservative Christian, traditional family values kind of guy, but the folks on the fringe fighting the cultural war are not helping with the argument and not helping with the stance. So I agree with you there. Yeah. Yeah, wouldn't, right? Mark, that's a good solution. Let me go back up. Mando can return to Navarro and find the place has been ransacked. Cara killed, Grief needing help. That's true. There could be some backlash that came back and just kind of flattened Navarro. I'd hate to see that, but it would fit. It would fit. Truthfully, I'm angry with the situation. I'm going to do my best to go to Jedi, not letting my emotions control me. Oh, which leads to a very good topic change as soon as I get caught up with the comments, because we do have other things to discuss today. It's where life imitates art. Politics play a big part in Star Wars. Social media have gone to expressive politics. You have to be professional, pick your battles. Yeah, and I discussed this briefly with a magic maker beforehand. There's different ways to express yourself that are not as combative or socially distasteful. So sometimes there's art to it, and tastefully making your argument in a way that's constructive versus a way that's combative and in a way that is divisive. So what Gina did, I think she was making a very, very strong argument that needs to be had, but she didn't do it in a tactful or constructive way that allowed the discourse to move forward. Now, is that fair? Not necessarily, because the left can use these, terms and use Nazi symbolism against the right, but the right can't use it against the left. So that's not necessarily equal playing field. But part of understanding it is understanding the climate we're in. If you're going to enter into that foray, you need to understand the rules of the game. And I thought Josh did a great job this morning on Den of Nerds, and even last night on the Nerdvengers kind of thing, I thought he did a good job of discussing that. Yeah. And James Gunn managed to come back. There might be a chance for Gina. Boy, Super Saiyan, I don't disagree with you, but she needs to change her ways. She needs to learn from it, and she needs to show some. She'll have to very much bend the knee. And I don't know that bending the knee is in her DNA, right? Gina Carano comes across to me as somebody who doesn't like to back down from a fight. It's just in her, in her DNA. It's in her structure. And I don't see her able to de-escalate in that manner, in a way to kind of give some mea culpas and say, I expressed myself wrong and I'm so sorry, la, 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 right? I don't think she has that nuance to her. If she does, then perhaps there is a way forward. Just right now, I don't see it. Trinity, I saw you talking this morning. You were on a good roll. I was there for a good part of your stream. The biggest issue is consistency within Lucasfilm. Yes, it's transparent at this point, right? That there's no consistency, and they've had to pick a side, and that's shown. Let's get back up here. Remember Gina in the movie Haywire? I don't think I've saw her there. She was an okay actress. The cast carried her. Right. The cast carries her, and she's good for certain things. That's true. Bet Pedro took a lot of heat from Disney. Yes, for the Instagram. Yes, and he took it down. Right. That's exactly right, Mark. Pedro Pascal took a lot of heat from Disney, and rightfully so. Right, from all accounts, I kind of pick up Pedro's a jerk. He's not a nice. He doesn't play well socially, but he does know how to keep his mouth shut when he needs to. He is more willing to bend the knee, and he is willing to kind of back off. And I just don't see Gina doing the same thing, right? She keeps poking the bear time after time. I agree, and escalating, right? She doesn't know how to de-escalate aggressively. Watching 2 times speed makes the snow like a blizzard. Oh, it's snowing here at the North Pole. The sad thing, John told Gina a secret about Cara Dune fans never knew. Right, it was probably going to come out. I hope that they recast and we revisit Navarro and have Cara Dune continued in the storyline. But we need a little bit of a break so it's not as jarring when you get an actress change in the role. But who knows? We'll see what happens. I don't think bending the knee would be the right choice in this case either. Right. It's tough, Phil. Money can make most back down. Star Wars millions. Yeah. Oh, Gray, you're thinking she will back down. in many ways, it would be good. And the only way that I see Disney being able to kind of de-escalate is the cultural war. And as I mentioned, this has become a battle line, right? In the Fire Gina Carano and We Stand with Gina Carano hashtag movements, we're kind of pushing one another, right? And there's a big portion of the fandom that's going to pull back because of this. And Trinity's right too. Like the political divide in America is roughly 50-50. And by taking this action against Gina, they've put a lot of fans off. And if there is a way forward where Gina can give some mea culpas and de-escalate, that would be the best path forward to get her rehired by Disney, get her back in there, sort of the James Gunn situation. But I just don't know that maybe she will. Let's hope, right? Aggressively. For those who follow MMA, it's history playing itself. Yes. And MMA has a different sort of fandom, right? So it's tough. It's tough. And that's where she comes from. And I'll say this too, by her standing her ground and her escalating tensions, there's a certain portion of people who will back her even more. So even if she doesn't do the mea culpas and come back, she has now kind of carved out a niche for herself with certain fans who will support her in whatever activity she does. So it may not be with Disney, may not be with Lucasfilm or Star Wars, but she may have a re-entry into MMA. She may be a big personality in MMA or in like the wrestling franchises, where she's hired specifically because she brings that political side to it, and their fans are already sort of in that space. So it would draw more of those people into what is already in that space, and she may do just fine, right? Even if she did, it's something they want to carry around, let her go, right? I think so. I think recasting is probably the way forward. So that's just my own opinion. I think there's some recasting. So I want to move on to the High Republic novels. I just finished Into the Dark. So that's, and I know that, Gray, you've been reading it. I don't know if you've been able to finish it yet. I did a power through last night. I was up till like 2 a.m. and then I got up early this morning and I finished it. I got through the end of the book. I would say at this point, it's my favorite of the three. So we got Light of the Jedi, Test of Courage, and Into the Dark. Into the Dark is probably my favorite of the three, followed by Light of the Jedi, and Test of Courage would be the at the bottom. Oh, Melissa McCarthy, I don't think so. Super Saiyan. She's more of a. I don't think she has the physicality to bring. She's more of a comedic actress, but very good, very good. So I think that look, Into the Dark has some great storylines to it. And I think, Mike, you were not on it. No, maybe I'm confusing you with somebody else. Somebody was really upset with how Into the Dark ends. For me, I liked it. I thought it brought something in, and it opens up some stuff. There's a new kind of Force user label in here called the Wayfinder, right? Or Wayseeker, Wayfinder Jedi, right? Wayfinder that are not affiliated with the Jedi Council, but they are kind of followers of the Jedi. They just are not affiliated with the Jedi Council or that movement. So they introduce a character in Into the Dark that uses white lightsabers, and most of us are familiar that those are sabers that were formerly red and were healed, and that makes them white. And I thought that was really, really good. So yeah, gray. There you go. Oh, okay, good. I was right, Mike. Good, Mike. I was trying to I make sure I didn't have you confused. My brain does that sometimes. Yeah, she thinks it's better, far better than light. But Gray, I'm conflicted because I don't know that I would feel that way if I hadn't already read Light of the Jedi. I think Light of the Jedi is tied in really, really closely in the way that the incident, right, the hyperspace incident is introduced in Light of the Jedi is kind of critical to understanding where we are in Into the Darkness, or Into the Dark. So it's almost like, and I know Josh kind of got bogged down in that first part. Now would be a good time for maybe Josh, Den of Nerds, just to put down Light of the Jedi, put it down, pick up Claudia's book and read it. and see where you go with there. I think there are some things Josh may or may not like. I don't know for sure. I don't know him that well, but it would be a good time if you're bogged down in Light of the Jedi and it's just not connecting with you. You're already familiar with the the hyperspace incident, so that context is there. You could jump over to Light of the Jedi and not really miss a beat. And I think Claudia does a really, really good job of introducing the effects of that, and I thought she did a really, really good job of kind of touching base on the impact to personal lives and the system as a whole, and she did a really good job. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, and I would say I gave grades to these, and I gave Light of the Jedi a B plus. A Test of Courage, I gave like a C plus, and Into the Dark, I would maybe give an A minus, maybe an A even. I'm sort of in that space. So for me, that's I really enjoyed it. It was well written. The story was good. There are some things that I think will come up as discussion points and perhaps arguments. And here's the question I have for those that have read them. Is there any reason that these novels couldn't have been set after the sequel trilogy, maybe 200 years after, rather than 200 years before the prequels? Would they have fit in well 200 years after the sequels? For me, I'm almost at the point of thinking that it's a better fit maybe 200 years after the sequels, and they could have been put in context that way with some of the concepts like these Wayfinder Jedi, right? That anytime you introduce a concept that happened before, then the question is, why isn't it there during or after, right? Like, let's say the hyperspace incident. It was introduced before. So why wasn't it weaponized? Why wasn't it used like during the prequel, original, sequel? There's another device introduced in Into the Dark, and I can't really say much without getting into spoiler territory. There's a device entered into that I've never seen in Star Wars before. And it makes me wonder, where were they? What happened? Where did it? And we talked a little bit in the spoiler episode on Light of the Jedi, some of the things there that make you question, how did they address this? If it were after, say, 200 years after the sequels, it could be that these things happened because of some other change that happened afterwards. And the reason we didn't see it during the prequels, original sequels, is because it hadn't happened yet, right? So for me, that's where that is. The Dringer are the Rot from DC ROT. I'm not sure what that means, Mike. I saw you mention that it's a little bit like Swamp Thing, right? And maybe so. Super Saiyan, do I look in shape? Are you referring back to Trinity's thing this morning? Aggressively. It's Claudia Gray homie. She's a reigning defending heavyweight champion of Star Wars literature. She really is. Aggressively. Claudia Gray is probably at the top of the heap. Some people may still argue that belongs to Timothy Zahn, but Claudia Gray is right there. Mike, I think Into the Dark could have come first, It would have allowed the audience to come into Light of the Jedi easier. Yeah, the problem is I don't know that it introduces the hyperspace incident well enough, although it does address the impact of the hyperspace incident really well. Brian Stone, that's where I am. I'm about to stop reading Light of the Jedi. I may pick it up afterwards. Brian, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, go pick up Into the Dark, read it, and then you may want to come back. Right. The style of writing, not the story. Enjoyed both very much. Just a huge Claudia fan. Yes. Oh, yeah. Claudia Gray is fantastic. And there's the link to our Discord. It's in the description here as well. And Mark, thanks for putting that in there. Super Saiyan, it could have been an alternate universe. I've been arguing that maybe Lucasfilm will be well served to continue authorizing stories in Legends, under the Legends label, and take some of those stories that were labeled Legends and allow them to continue as Legends material, because people are invested in those characters, in those stories, and why not let them continue under that label and let that universe continue as an alternate universe, as George Lucas has always said. He saw what is now labeled as Legends as alternate universe that shared the same aspects as his universe. They were just set in a parallel universe. So these maybe could have been more like Legends, but I'm still into thinking maybe it would have fit better like 200 years after. That's just aggressively. I love Light of the Jedi, but it would have been so much better if the writer had just kept killing the characters we were reading for 30 instead of just 3. Maybe so. Maybe so. Brian, hey, great stream. Thank you so much. Have a great day, Brian. Thanks for being here. They should have done it 200 years after. Thanks, Gray. Yeah, I think I just was thinking about it as I was finishing Into the Dark, and like, why couldn't this be set then, right? Mike, yeah, yeah. Oh, Rot is the evil swamp thing, basically. Okay, thanks, Mike. I'm just unfamiliar with Rot. So, yeah, the swamp thing. Claudia writes better Jedi. Yeah, aggressively. This is all set up to the next villain for Rey and company. 200 years in the past. Mark said, explain the 800-year history since the Old Republic. That's 1,000 years. Oh, maybe so. Aggressively, that could be the case. They're setting up something for post Rise. But I don't know. To me, it feels like they could have entered into post-Rise with some changes to the Jedi. So, like these Wayfinders or the Wayseekers, the Jedi who are not aligned with the Jedi Council, right? That Rey almost fits into that. Certainly, Ahsoka fits into that. Ahsoka is this Wayseeker kind that we see in Into the Dark. That is what Ahsoka is. But why do they never call her that? Because that role, that type of Jedi is established. And there's always this discussion that always happens about who gray Jedi are, or is there such a thing as a gray Jedi, blah, 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 blah. But all of that sort of happens. But we never see it. And so here, 200 years before the prequels, we have this type of Jedi. And what happened to them? Why is it not used? Those kind of questions come up. So superhero reviews. You say, but I digress. Where did you say something before? Did I miss it? Let me go. Let me see. I don't see anything. It may just be how this is getting presented to me. So I missed your comment. I don't see your. Oh, or are you talking about me? Maybe I'm digressing. So that's where I am on the whole High Republic novels. They could have been set after the sequels, like 200 years after, and then you don't end up with these sort of conflicts in continuity. And hopefully here in another week or so, we will do another panel discussion. We'll wait for Gray to finish, and I'll try to get our friend Lord Callus again, and maybe we can have another panel discussion Into the Dark and talk about some of these issues more. I also have it reserved at the public library in audiobook, so as soon as I get that, I'll be listening to it again and that'll be a lot of fun. Aggressively, 2 years from now, we'll see Ezra, Thrawn's daughter, and teenage Grogu on the edge of a galaxy where a threat from 1,000 years goes back. Oh, moment happens. Oh, I like where your head is, aggressively. Oh, I like it a lot. I like it a lot. That's great. All right, folks, that's all I had for today. That was the discussion I wanted to bring up. I think we've had a helpful and fruitful discussion here in the chat as well. You guys have been awesome as usual. And I look forward to meeting with you all again. The Magic Maker and I have been planning to have a bit of a deep dive discussion into the Darksaber, the history of it, what the meaning of it, what it is and what it isn't, and perhaps where it might come into play in Mandalorian Season 3, where we're going with the Mandalorian. So that's where we're headed. We want to have that discussion, but the news of the day kind of interrupted our plan. And so, Obi-Wan, the homie, welcome. Thank you for being here. I appreciate the comment. A lesson of the day, delete Twitter. You have to be careful, my friends. You have to be careful. And look, we may have similar or we have dissimilar political opinions. My hope is that we learn to have more civil discussion, and that would be great. Are you listening to audiobooks on Libby? Yes, sir. Libby is the public library app, and I have Into the Dark on reserve. So that's where, yes, I do have that. That's how I listen to them. Thank you all very much. We'll be back the next time, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. It's undetermined yet where we live for tomorrow, but I hope to see you all soon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Be good to each other. You know, we could disagree. We can be on different sides of political or social sides of things as it goes with this cultural war that's going on in the United States and around the world. We can still be friends. And that's what I love about this community. I happen to know that some of you are very opposed to where I am politically, but we're able to be here. We're able to be friends. We're able to share our love for Star Wars together. And I am so thankful for you all. Truly, truly, I am. You have all made my life, my day better for being here. Thank you so much. And until next time, Merry Christmas, everybody. Bye-bye.